Hello, my dear viewer. This is a new and no less exciting story about the husband Jake and wife Susie, which in the first chapter will impress you very much. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, pour hot tea, and of course have a nice viewing. Dig 2 graves. Chapter 1. Friday, 6:10 p.m. Rush hour traffic has never looked so good, I think to myself as I crawl along the I-20 freeway heading west from the Dallas-Fort Worth metropolitan area. After a week and a half on the road, everything looks better. I must confess that until 10 minutes ago, I was not sure that my arrival home would prove more successful. Fresh from an argument, I left on this trip, slamming the garage door in anger. My subsequent calls home over the next week or so did not dispel the dark clouds hanging overhead, and I made them more out of a sense of duty than a desire to talk to Susie. The time away, however, gave our marriage time to rest and both of us time to reflect. I realized that I was as much of a problem in our marriage as Susie was. Like many couples, we fought over love moments. I accused her of leaving us for her blossoming career as an assistant district attorney. She called me the pot calling the kettle black, claiming that I was more interested in obtaining a partnership in my firm than in having a relationship with her. In addition, she accused me of not paying attention to her, except, of course, when I felt like making love. I replied that I couldn't pay attention to someone who was never home. During our 6-year marriage, there were several occasions when I questioned my judgment in marrying another lawyer. Unfortunately, I remember taking the first picture that Wednesday morning. I mentioned in passing that it would be nice to have her home at a decent time, the night before I left on a business trip. Susie has the same explosive temperament as I do, and after my first salvo, our discussion quickly turned into an argument. The argument ended when I slammed the door on my way to the car. In an escalation of verbal blows, I told her that our love life could be better if she did more than just lay around. Getting angry, she said she would be more active if she was with someone who knew how to make love. It took some time for my anger to subside before I could begin to reflect on myself, Susie, and our marriage. I realized that Susie is as sensitive to my comments about her career as I am to her comments about mine. The truth is, we have good reason to be sensitive. We both spend too much time and energy on our careers and too little on our relationships. We are sensitive because the truth hurts. The hurtful comments and late nights we spend apart degrade every other aspect of our relationship. But no matter how gloomy the past week had been, my one cell phone call on the baggage carousel made the sun burst into flames and the earth start spinning again. The sweet, sultry notes in Susie's voice were music to my ears, music I hadn't heard in over a year. Her promise of something special almost had me running to the long-term parking lot instead of waiting patiently for the bus. Now I can only laugh at myself as I wade through the bumper-to-bumper traffic. I have to force myself to breathe slowly as I struggle to get to where I hope to be enthusiastically welcomed home. As we pulled up to our house, I glanced at the dozen roses I'd bought as I left the airport. I cringe at the thought of not getting her anything for our 6th anniversary, which is tomorrow night. Worse, I feel like an asshole for not even wanting to get her anything until that magical call on her cell phone. Thankfully, tomorrow is Saturday, and I'll have plenty of time to get her something. With a sigh of relief, I turn the last corner and drive the last block. We've lived here since we were married, since I inherited the house from my uncle. Sometimes I blame the house for our marriage problems. It's an older housing community, and our house is at the end of a cul-de-sac with only one close neighbor. I pull up to the house and push the button on the garage door. Unsurprisingly, it doesn't work. It seems like there's always something wrong with our house, and that's partly why I blame the house. But I don't want it to become even a minor setback. I park on my side of the driveway and quickly run to the trunk to grab my suitcase. "Jake," I hear from our house. I look up and see her in the beautiful image of the very woman I married. Susie is standing in the doorway, practically straddling the doorframe like some exotic dancer, dressed in the longest negligee I've ever seen. "Why don't you leave the luggage for later?" she cooed. Without taking my eyes off her, I tossed the briefcase into the trunk and closed the trunk lid. In a complete stupor, I walked to the front door. I couldn't take my eyes off her and somehow managed to make it to the door without tripping and killing myself. At the last moment, she turns to face me and wraps her arms around me, pulling my head back for a kiss. Only for a moment does my brain realize that she's practically unclothed and standing on the porch of our house. Then my head drops and our lips touch. Our kiss is tender and exploratory at first. Our tongues begin to dance together. I smell the note of a bitter cigarette, proof that I haven't convinced her to quit smoking. Then I have a flicker of the thought that I don't have the best breath after a beer on an airplane. All my worries disappear when she puts her hand behind my head and presses our faces even closer. She presses in hard, and I return the favor, our kiss quickly turning into something meant for the bedroom. I put my right hand behind her back, and without breaking the kiss, leaned over and picked her up in my arms. I carry my wife over the threshold and hook my foot in the door, slamming it shut. She wraps both hands around my face, kissing me carelessly, and somehow we still make it to our bedroom without stumbling, and I slowly let her slide down my body to the floor. I can feel every inch of her body, and I'm sure she can feel me pushing away from her. I raise my hand to remove my tie, but her hands stop me. "Let me do it," she cooed again. "I want you to relax for a moment, since I'm all scheduled for the next hour or so." I smile and try to relax like she asked. She takes my hand and leads me a few steps away from where my heavy oak office chair stood. I raise my eyebrow questioningly, and she smiles. "You'll figure it out pretty soon," she teases. "Now let me finish," she orders rather than asks. I nod as she starts to loosen my tie and tosses it carelessly to the floor. She lifts my left hand to undo my cuff button, and I drop my other hand to her thigh. She looks me straight in the eye, shamelessly pushing away from my hand. I've only been home for 5 minutes, and Susie has already shocked me several times with her promiscuity. I've never seen her so wild and uninhibited. Finished with the left cuff, she reached down to undo the button on my right sleeve, now slowly rubbing against the outstretched fingers of my left hand. Without taking her gaze from my eyes, she moves to my neck, where she quickly undoes all the remaining buttons of my shirt. Her hands begin to unbuckle my belt, and I realize that this could end before she undresses me. The belt comes undone, and I quickly unbutton my pants at my knees. The slow, luxurious undressing that started with my shirt has evaporated as her need to undress me is equal to mine. She pulls away from my hand for a moment and pulls off my shirt and t-shirt. Smiling, she raises her eyes to me, and an even bigger performance begins further down the line. "Oh God," I said to myself as she finished kneeling. I close my eyes with anticipation. Can it be? I hope. Her hands urge me to lift one of my feet, and I feel and then hear my shoe being tossed to the floor. I feel my pant leg being pulled off, and then her hand brings my leg back to the floor. "Oh gods," I moan, savoring the rare sensation. Then her hands urge me to lift my other foot, and I can barely breathe, let alone keep my balance, when another shoe is kicked off of me. I feel my pants sliding down, and then the slight chill of the room. I lower my left foot, and her arms wrap around my waist. More shock reverberates in the small parts of my brain that are still functioning. With a squelch, I feel her finish her business there, and I open my eyes, looking into her glowing eyes. "Did you like it?" She laughs. "Do you need to ask?" I quibble. A verbal question game we play with each other all the time. She slowly rises and reaches up to kiss me on the lips. "Do you trust me?" she asks. "Why not?" She smiles at my question and gently pushes me back into the office chair. "What do you plan on doing?" I asked with a smirk, leaning back in my chair. "Shh," she reassures me. She kneels down in front of my chair, and then a new session begins. She looks at me with her already slutty eyes. She places my left hand on the massive oak armrest of the chair. The chair is heavy and wide, and I briefly wonder how she got it into the room by herself. Like magic, a Velcro strap appears, and with a few turns, my left arm is secured to the chair. "What are you doing?" I ask again, this time with more than just curiosity. "Shh, shh, shh," she repeats with a disarming smile. I laugh at her games as she repeats the Velcro trick with my right hand, and then again with both ankles to the chair legs. Whatever she's up to, it's going to be a test of all my strength. Then she takes the belt out of my pants, slides it across my stomach, and fastens it to the back of the chair. "Comfortable?" she asks, rising to her feet. I sigh at really looking at her in the light for the first time since coming home. The sheer negligee doesn't hide much. If the negligee included a set of panties, she chose to be without them. Is this brand new? I ask, not recognizing it. Yes, it is. Do you like it? It looks incredible, I answer honestly. Where did you buy it? I'm glad you like him so much. It was a gift from Tim for our anniversary. Tim? I asked, puzzled. Yes, of course. Do you remember me? I hear from behind me. I turn my head sharply, instantly recognizing the sound of his voice. What the fuck? I exclaim. I start to get up and immediately remember that I can't move. Susie, get me out of this quickly, I command. Tim Schmidt steps around my chair and slips over to Susie, wraps his arms around her front, and pulls her to him. My eyes flash with anger and then warning when I realize he's wearing my robe. Susie! I exclaim. I think you're very comfortable where you are, Jake. Susie purred. I look up at her in surprise, and for the first time I notice that the gleam in her eyes has disappeared and been replaced by a steely glint. Susie, what the hell? Jake, you've been having fun all this time, and now I'm going to have fun too. Only instead of doing it behind your back, I'm going to have fun right in front of you. Susie? Exclaimed I, puzzled and indignant. Jake, she said reproachfully. Did you really think you were going to get away with this forever? What are you talking about? And get off that asshole, I yell, watching Schmidt's hand slide lower and lower on my wife. Oh, Jake, she purred, spreading her legs. Are you really going to claim innocence all the way to the end? I watch in shock as Schmidt's finger disappears into my wife. Susie closes her eyes. Susie, I have no idea what you're talking about, I plead. What have I done? Please make it stop. Please. What a nightmare this is. Jake, enough already. I've seen the pictures of you and Heidi. I've seen Heidi's statement where she admits she was forced into an affair with you. Heidi? I asked, stunned. Yes, Heidi. Your poor secretary? I can't believe you took advantage of her like that. We had our arguments, but at least I respected you as a person. Betraying me the way you did is horrible enough. But to victimize this poor woman? I honestly have no idea what you're talking about, I shout. Susie, please, let's talk about it. Untie me and let's talk about it. Don't do this to him. Don't do this to him, I spit out. I have no intention of listening to any more of your fucking lies, she hissed back. Help me, Susie says to Schmidt, nodding in my direction. I sigh in relief as she pulls away from that jerk Schmidt. The two of them walk over to the chair. I briefly ponder what I'm going to do when I'm free. Beat the shit out of Schmidt first or second. He's got to be involved somehow. I hope nothing's happened between him and Susie yet. Hey, what are you doing? I exclaim, as the two of them approach each side of the chair and begin to tip it backwards. I feel my weight shift the balance of the chair onto the back legs. Susie shrieks, and suddenly the chair is in free fall. The back of the chair falls to the floor and my head hits the hard frame of the chair back. Oh, sorry. Susie laughs, soon joined by Schmidt. What the fuck? Spat out venomously I could feel the blood rushing to my face. Shut up, Jake, Susie says in disgust. She moves over to me and leans on my chest, lowering herself so that she finds herself sitting on top of me and facing me. It's time for a little payback, Jake. A little revenge. And it's also time for a little fun, at least for me. And who knows, maybe you'll like it in the end. She laughs. She waves her hand towards Schmidt, who then moves to stand at my head facing Susie. Susie looks at me one last time with gleeful disdain, and then at Schmidt. Smiling, she loosens the knot on my robe and opens it, exposing Schmidt. Oh God, Susie, please don't do this, I plead. Shut up, Jake. You've been lying to me for years, and now you're going to pay. Susie, I didn't do it. I don't know what you saw or what you were told, but you have to believe me. Jake, I saw pictures of you making love to Heidi. She looks back at Schmidt and takes his buddy in her hand. She strokes it a few times, and I watch in agony as it quickly becomes hard. He's so handsome, isn't he, Jake? Much prettier than yours. I look up at Schmidt, his face contorted into a smile as he looks back up. If looks could kill, he'd be mottled on the spot. I really can't wait any longer, Susie mused. Susie, this is all some terrible mistake. Please don't do this. Whatever I've done, don't make it worse by doing it like this. She looks at me one last time, shaking her head. Then she leans forward, and I watch in horror, his Schmidt buddy disappearing, just as he had with me a few minutes ago. Oh God, no, I scream in horror. It's like watching a terrible accident that you can't look away from. I feel like I have a red-hot knife in my stomach, but I can't stop watching her do it. She continues to do it for another 2 minutes. Schmidt, you're going to die, I threaten. Susie laughs, looking down at me. You shouldn't threaten people like that in front of the ADA. Oh, I've been meaning to tell you. I saw your short look when I first kissed you at the front door. You hesitated for a moment, didn't you? Did you taste something strange? Do you know that we both now know what Tim tastes like? My stomach instantly churned, and I almost threw up. Susie laughs and gets up off my chest. They watch me gasp for a moment. Don't take it personally, Tim. I really enjoyed it, and I'm planning many more. You cunt, I finally say. You don't know the half of it, Jake. You think this night is over for you? I've been in hell for the last 24 hours thinking about you cheating on me. You can plan on being in hell for at least another half of that time. It's time for you to finally get on with me, she says angrily to Schmidt. Susie turns around and lies on my chest again, but this time with her knees on the floor and grabs the front of my chair by my knees. To my horror, I realized that I was going to have to watch her make love to this freak a few inches away from me. I couldn't look away as Schmidt kneels behind my head. Susie turns her head and looks at me. If only you were as faithful. This is what you did for us, Jake. Now this is my revenge. I can't look anymore, and I'm forced to turn my head. I feel myself go numb as Schmidt's knees press against the top of my head. The chair rocks, and I try not to think about what that means. My wrists and ankles are chafed from trying to free them. I can hear Schmidt's heavy breathing. And then the most horrible sound of all came to my ears, Susie's long scream. I can feel every tremor in her body. Her breathing turns into hoarse exhalations. And just when I think it can't get any worse, Schmidt starts lurching loudly too. I can only lie on my back in overwhelming fear, right underneath them. The first chapter has come to an end, and the next one will be very soon. And if you want to read this chapter without censorship, in the description I left a link to our Telegram channel, where you can find the uncensored version. To be continued.